Hey, I'm not going to fit this in the prediction, so I'm just going to tell you right now. You guys, you probably guessed I'm not super positive on the state of the United States economy, but I'll tell you one place I think is fucked this year, Canada. And I was debating adding a whole section on Canada predictions, but it's like not worth it. I swear to God, I've listened to like 4 different Canadian hedge fund managers talk seriously about it. I listened to this really brilliant woman, I should really shout her out, who like really went into detail on how I think Canada's fucked, bro. I think Canada's goofy fucked. I think their whole economy is similarly to China, but almost even worse, propped up by real estate. People have been buying second, third homes. People have been renovating houses that have no fucking cash flow. Like the median home price is like 700,000 USD in an economy that's doing worse. The whole thing's a house of fucking cards. That thing's trash. It's a dumpster fire. I swear to God, Canada's worse off than I thought. If you're a young person, I guess it doesn't matter too much because you need housing to come down. There's literally no way to live there. It's fucking ridiculous. But also, their unemployment's already higher than America. I think it's gonna go high. I think Canada's gonna have a tough time. That's my honest prediction, and I could be wrong, but the parallels are there. It's also funny because like Canada, the person I was listening to was so smart. It was a really good way to look at it. They were like, Canada basically just copied America housing wise, like with the leveraged loans and everything else. But Canada was a little bit late. They were a little bit late to it. So right around 2008, when America has the crash, Canada was just about to get into that stuff. Like Canada's banks were already petitioning to allow like zero income loans, extra rate mortgages, ninja loans, all that stuff, but they didn't get there yet. So Canada was saved. They were temporarily saved from the housing crash. And a lot of Canadian bankers went on like world tours talking about how smart they were and how they avoided the fucking housing crash. But then they just kept on going. They didn't learn any lesson from that. And so now their trend line since '08 is fucking incredibly up and to the right on housing prices. I don't know. I mean, it's never, ever deflated. And so people there literally can't afford. Australia's similar, China's similar, New Zealand's similar. A lot of these countries, these commodity producing countries, they kind of got into a real estate pact with China and the symbiotic relationship where both their profit values bumped, over their asset values bumped. I live in Canada. Can you say something okay about it to make me feel slightly better? I mean, if you're young, I do think the scary part is like rising unemployment if that happens. But also like, think if this doesn't happen, like if there's not a correction in the Canadian housing market, realistically, a young person in Canada will never afford a home ever. Like it's so far out of the reach. There has to be something that happens. There has to be rationality returning to that market. It is such a bad bubble. You should almost, I don't know. I think the idea that like the runway's finally giving out is on some level a good thing. It's gotta happen. Hey Shrek, I work with welfare in Canada and I 100% can confirm we're fucked. Lots of quote wealthy people are going to food banks. Food bank demand in the UK, the US, and Canada is at all-time highs, bro. Food bank demand is popping off. So invest in food banks. Let's turn this into a profit-making enterprise. Genius. Have you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad? Yeah, I read it. Yeah, I read all those money books, bro. I read The 4-Hour Work Week and Rich Dad, Poor Dad and what's the Millionaire Mindset, and I've read all those, all right? They're all right. They can get you started on a path. Generally, the authors end up being kind of cranks. They end up being kind of crazy. They're either like fucking wild gold bugs or they're like fucking, you know what I'm saying? A lot of money advice I think is really obvious when you really boil it down, which is kind of like, don't spend more than you make. Don't have a lot of expensive hobbies. Try to put your excess money into things that earn money. Like that's the idea. It's all pretty obvious, but you know, sometimes people need a funny way to say it. And Rich Dad, Poor Dad has that way where it's like, you don't want to be the poor dad, do you? Be the rich dad. You know, it's whatever works for people. The point is like, man, you just got to spend less and be really avoidant of debt. That's the only thing I could tell you. If possible. Again, everyone's circumstances are different, but if possible, avoid debt. I thought you said it wasn't about spending less. There's a line, right? I think when people start cutting down to like, hey, I'm not even going to eat. I'm not going to eat out ever. I'm only going to have rice and beans. I'm not going to see my friends. I'm not going to get a gym membership. I'm not going to, like, when you start getting to the point where you're cutting to the bone, in my opinion, it imposes such a hardship on your life that you might be better served trying to find some way to grow the numerator, which is the income, in some way, finding some way to get like a little extra cash rather than cutting to the bone. If you're able to do it, it's fine. I'm just saying that's my general judge is like that could be mentally difficult and require too much willpower. But if you're like, you know, the obvious, if you're buying like expensive, I don't know, Gucci belts or shit and you can't afford it, that's going to be the problem. Like if you have expensive hobbies, cutting that is going to save you more money than anything else. But I need those belts. Yeah, maybe Gucci belt's a bad example because everyone does need a flashy Gucci belt. I judge you if you don't have a Gucci belt. Whenever I go to Chipotle, for example, I wear not just one, but 2 Gucci belts, so everyone knows that I'm paid, dude. I have one in the front and I have one in the back, actually. And then when I open the door, I go, Gucci gang! My sister makes about 8K a year more than me, but I have more savings because she blows money like crazy. Don't be so judgy on your sister. She can blow 8K more a year on you and be fine. Okay? Let her live. But I see what you're saying. And true. You know, save money. It's good. Hey, Truck, I spent $200 on a Counter-Strike knife when I was unemployed. Sometimes you got to bet on yourself. So true, King. So fucking true. So fucking true. You got to bet on yourself. You got to bet on yourself. Bet on success. That's why one of the greatest investments you can bet is say like, hey, wait a minute. I know sports better than anyone else in the world. I'm going to bet on myself by betting on my sports team to win. And then you make a bunch of money. Like that's one of the best ways. I save half of my salary every month and I blow it all on a trip the 4th month. That's a really high amount to save and then blow on a trip. But it also, I don't want to judge you because it sounds like you have a fucking awesome, it sounds like you have 3 awesome trips a year, which is like, I'm not going to knock that. I do think maybe you could save 30% for the trip and 20% for, I don't know, retirement or something, but whatever, man. Big A, are you going to play Baldur's Gate 3 or Palworld with stands anytime soon? I will play neither of those games with anyone anytime soon. I'll play Risk of Rain with stands, but I'm not going to play Palworld. Baldur's Gate 3, I am probably going to play with my little brother over Christmas off stream. And it's going to be a blast, like when we used to play Neverwinter Nights as kids. That's what I'm going to do. The sex scene's about to be real awkward. I don't know why you brought that up. We can avoid them, obviously, or like fucking look the other way. Thought you hated it? Of course I don't hate Baldur's Gate 3. It's just not a stream game. And certainly not one that I can beat in time on stream. And then Palworld, it just didn't do it for me, bro. I echo my hero Shroud when he said in that clip, Palworld has too much automation. And you know what? I believe him. I just don't, it's not for me. All right, you can love it. I'm not like Mr. Pokemon here. I fucking rip on Nintendo all the time. And I'm happy that, you know, a small indie team fucking made some money at the end of the day. But I don't want to play it. Will you ever do a Nuzlocke on stream? I really want to do, I've had this want for a long time, and I think it'd be really fun, is to play one of those really hard, custom, new story, fan-made Pokemon games. Like Pokemon Laser Emerald or some shit. I want to play like one of the really good ones. The ones that has like whole new gym leaders, all new story. They're fucking hard. And I'm just going to play the full thing, go in blind on stream and play it with chat. I think it'd be fun as fuck. I think I would have a good time. I think it'd be a fun video at the end of it. I think that'd be great. That's why I do want to do that. I have structured my life in a way where I have a tough time breaking out of my routine because my routine is the only thing keeping me on the straight and narrow. I'm just like Sheldon Cooper. Is that young Sheldon? Are you saying I'm like Sheldon? I'm like the Bazinga guy? Because I don't think I'm like that. I don't think that's what I'm like. Although I will say, for as much as everyone makes fun of young Sheldon and Big Bang Theory, I know for a fact that probably half of you watch it. Literally half of you. And you might say it's guilty pleasure, but I literally think you do because the stats are so high on those shows. Even young Sheldon hit Netflix, it's already, the numbers are gangbusters. It's crushing. So don't pretend. You guys are pretending. I watched it on TikTok. That's not better. Bro, I want you to know, if anything, it's worse. I want you to know, if anything, it's worse. My MIT astrophysicist friend is a super big fan of young Sheldon. There's no accounting for taste, I guess. I sat next to a guy on an airplane who watched it for 5 hours straight. You sat next to a guy and you plugged in the earphones to his channel and looked over? Laughed when he laughed? Bro, just admit it.